Welcome to the BLTnT podcast. I'm your host, Matt Loria, serving up real stories of business, life, technology, and transformations. You'll hear from interesting people about big changes from career shifts to life-altering decisions and the innovations that help make it all happen. It's about sharing those light bulb moments, pivot points, challenges overcome, and the journeys that inspire us to think differently. If you're on the lookout for insights to propel you forward, stories that resonate, or just a bit of inspiration on your next BLTnT move, you're in the right place. Let's dig in. We are here with the most recent episode of the BLTnT podcast, where we're talking about business, life, technology, and transformations. And I've got Brian Hollowaty here, who's the founder of Los Angeles Brands, and been a good friend for a lot of years, which makes us feel old if I was to say years.
Good to see you, Matt.
Good to see you. We earned this episode because all we did is screwed around with technical issues for about 30 minutes prior to making this thing happen. So
we have it fixed now. We should be good. Yes, that's right.
You deserve this podcast. So I've always admired what Brian has done. He's always been a kind of a trailblazing entrepreneur. Even when we were younger, we're still young. So when we were younger,
that's right.
But he's really built an impressive lineup of a whole portfolio of brands that are in the personal healthcare, personal hair care, personal, what do you call it? Personal wellness space. What do you call it?
Yeah, health and beauty.
Mm-hmm. Health and beauty. H&B. Yeah. Right? Is that how we talk about it in the industry?
HBA? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
HBA. Okay, that's gonna make me sound smart someday in front of somebody. So yeah, but it's been a journey to get here from working at the boat hardware store with me in the back stocking shelves to doing a quasi rave party that you hosted to fund your big move to here you are at the top of the world. So thank you, welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Great to be here, Matt. I've been watching all the episodes, and it's an honor to be here. So
you and 3 other people. So I mean, it's great that 4 people have done these things. So
it's been cool to see.
Good, thanks. So hey, let's kind of start off on the B track here, on the business track here. So you've got kind of a really interesting. I think it's a neat niche. White space beauty. Is that?
Yeah. So we really set out to kind of reinvent how brands are built. The traditional model, brands are it takes about 9 to 12 months to launch a brand, and then hopefully at that point you can sell it into retail or sell it online, direct to consumer. We kind of reinvented the model, and we said, hey, what if we could go meet with retail buyers, sit down directly with them, and find out where the opportunities are, find out where the white space is at those categories. So we would sit across from the retail buyers, and they would tell us, hey, we're under indexed on this category in, say, men's products that have tea tree that are 32 ounce in size. And they would kind of give us the data, what's working, what's not working in the category. At which point, then we would go back, use our own data from TikTok, from Amazon, from Nielsen data, and then come back to them with a brand concept. Now, the brand concept would be a PowerPoint, a beautiful PowerPoint with like photorealistic images, and then lab samples of the actual product. And we secured upfront purchase orders from these retailers. And these retailers are, a TJ Maxx's of the world, Nordstrom Rack, Ross, Burlington, Macy's. And then at that point, we would ship products to the retailers, usually multiple at once. At the same time, we would launch on Amazon at a premium. And so what happens if these are new brands that someone would see the brand in store on a retail shelf and they hadn't heard of it. So they would go to Amazon and see that it was priced double, twice as high. And they're like, oh my God, I'm getting a great value. And on Amazon, there's really good reviews. This is a great product. I'm getting a great deal. They would buy it that day. Well, over time,
people that are buying that on Amazon, they're just paying more because they're not in the discount retailer. And
that's right.
they're leaving the reviews saying, "Hey, this hair care product is amazing."
Correct. Hopefully they leave that
Okay.
review. It's, Amazon's very democratic, right? So good brands rise up, and brands that aren't very good die.
Hmm.
And so, and that's what we love about Amazon. So we would, when we built a new brand, we would do the Vine program. So we'd launch on Amazon. The Vine program basically guarantees that you'll get 30 reviews. It doesn't guarantee there'll be 30 good reviews. So
Okay.
like I said, it's very democratic, and you see what works and what doesn't work. 9 times out of 10, the products that we built worked pretty well. We did, 4.3, 4.5 stars. So someone would have that social proof when they're in store,
Great.
along with a really good value. And so what
And
that did is,
that's the buyer behavior though too, right? I mean, if I'm going into a TJ Maxx, one, I look
yeah,
at that sticker that says, you can find it for 29.99, but you're buying it
true.
for 11.99. So how great that feels. But I'm still double checking that online to say, hey, am I getting a
Yeah.
real deal?
And you're not alone. Most people do. And what's cool about that is the buyers were really pleased with that strategy. It drove retail sales because it showed such a good value. Many times, they usually ask for 30 to 40% of a discount. Ours many times were 50%, half off. And so
Mm.
they were really great value. And what happens is over time, the retailer would place reorders, maybe not. Sometimes they've moved on to other products, other brands that we would create for them. But over time, the consumers, when you run out of that shampoo or that body wash, it's sometimes easier, instead of going into store, you just reorder on Amazon. Even at a full price, it's still sometimes easier and more convenient.
That might
So
be
over time,
how they fell in love with the brand, essentially.
exactly. So over time, the brand and the lifetime value of the customer, it moved over to Amazon over time,
Mm.
and so we were able to really build the brand on Amazon. And the MVP, minimum viable product, was kind of getting products in hands
And
at
everybody's kind
retail.
of
And
happy in that model because the buyer, meaning the purchasing person at TJ Maxx, you were helping them fill a void in their shelves on a product that they needed anyway. They have
true,
data that says, hey, I'm below market on this particular category, so I know I need something to fill it. You're coming to them filling it, so
yeah,
now they're performing at industry level of some sort of par industry level. I'm assuming.
true, true. Yeah, it really was a win-win-win. The consumers got great products, the buyers were happy, and of course we were happy. And what's nice about those retailers is that they were able to place pretty large orders, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 pieces at a time.
Hmm.
And so for a small company like us, that helps us meet MOQs, minimum order quantities, and it really gets us in the game with each category. And
Great.
then, like I said, over time on Amazon, we built the brand. We do some small bit of advertising on Amazon, but we weren't doing the heavy lifting that other typical, beauty brands are doing, like heavy in pay-per-click advertising, influencer marketing. Like we didn't have to do any of that
Mm.
in the early days.
So
Yeah.
how has the model evolved for you here?
Well, we launched in COVID, in right before COVID, we launched 3 brands, 17 SKUs, and that was when it was a pretty big launch of like 3 different brands, 17 SKUs across 5 different retailers. And at that point, we shipped all of these products in February of 2020, and then the world shut down, and I was like, oh my god, this is how it's going to end. It's really bad. I mean, I had accounts receivable, but who knows when you're going to get paid at that time. Nobody had answers to anything, so it was kind of a dicey period. But lo and behold, things opened back up. These were essential categories, so our buyers called me with exciting news. They're like, hey, double the order, double the past order, and oh, by the way, can you create a kids brand for us? Can you create a pet brand for us? And they were giving us just massive opportunities. And so we really grew at that point. And so in a couple short years, we grew to 6 brands and 135 products. And we
Wow.
did this all with a very lean and scrappy team. So it's only a team of 3 that created all this. And I say that, but really we have, contractors, we have designers. Our factories are really an extension. Our labs and contract manufacturers are really an extension of our
Mhm.
company. So it does take, a greater team, but the core team is very lean.
And you've mentioned that this is a hyper local supply chain too, which allows you to stay lean in the organization directly with you, but then to have these, to kind of have all these extensions around you that are very closely located um,
Yeah,
to actually produce the products, right?
that's been a blessing, honestly. As you know, Matt, I've been to China a bunch early in my career,
Hmm.
over 30 times to China and global sourcing background. When we created Los Angeles brands, we really set out to do hyper local. These are products that go on the body. Is really important. Quality control is paramount. And it was really important, like you said, to be able to drive to our partners, go see how the products are made, really share our vision. When we first started, no one would entertain our orders even. They're like, okay, yeah, bless your heart. Come back when you're grown up.
Nice little pat
Uh,
on the head.
yeah, and we got a lot of that. Minimum order is 25K, and lo and behold, like our model, we had to kind of finesse how things were done. We weren't able to do, 25,000, 50,000 piece orders like some of the bigger brands. So we had to really sell our vision on where we're going. Like, hey, we can give you depth or breadth of brands and we can give you a lot of orders, but they're going to be 5,000 piece orders, 7,500 piece orders. And so we had to really work closely with our vendor partners. So to be able to drive, 20 minutes or 30 minutes and go sit down with them and really get to know them, that's been a key part of the business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
So
proud to say we're made locally too.
I
It's
was going to say, so it's made in the USA. I mean, is do all the chemicals actually come from here? Is it assembled here? How does that work?
not necessarily. There are some ingredients, exotic ingredients that come from around the world, but they're all secured through our partners here in Los Angeles.
Okay, great.
And then other components like our bottles, yeah, they're blow molded a mile from where they're filled. And so, I mean, super, super local. So blow molded a mile from where they're filled and then shipped nationally and now internationally as well.
Wow, wow. So you feel good
Yeah,
about these products then going on to your own family, right? If you're
I do. I do.
washing
And
your kids with this stuff, right?
I really do. And consumers now more than ever, they need transparency. So it's all about transparency. What's in the product, what's not in the product. So you really have to be very transparent online on the packaging, on the label, etc. And that's just a value that we embrace.
Hmm.
It's good for everyone.
That's great.
And that
Um,
bar, by the way, is always moving. We're always trying to get more clean ingredients, more sustainable packaging, etc. So it's continuous improvement.
and your buyer's just so ultra educated, right? The buyer of today is versus the buyer of 20
Oh my
years ago,
God,
completely
which
different.
is which is awesome. Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of
and
like when
they're
marketers come
educated
in.
and then they're socially connected, right?
Yep.
So they're learning about products. Some of our best salespeople now are consumers, just
Right.
sharing it with friends, right?
Well, it's interesting, like the market economy, right? How that it's almost like the market economy, is or the um, the market is driving the transparency. The market is driving and demanding the cleaner products. The market is driving and demanding this level of excellence and saying, you know what, I know that I can go to Dollar General and I can buy a unnatural. I mean, you might even be able to buy the natural stuff there, but I'm just picking on Dollar General, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
any retailer, you can go to any retailer, national retailer, and you can buy a discount brand that doesn't say any of these things on the label, and it's half the price possibly, or less. And
Yeah.
as long as you're okay with that, there's an ass for every seat, right?
True. No, it is true. And the trend I'm seeing though is taking prestige products. And this is what we've done. We've done this over the past couple of years. Take prestige products and create them for the mass market.
Hmm.
So not everyone can afford to shop at Sephora or Ulta.
Yes.
And but they still care about clean ingredients. They still want beautiful packaging and they want performance. And that's where we've been able to do that by really kind of being, I always say supply chain ninjas, but really focus on trimming the fat on.
Hmm.
And we don't have a bloated team of 100 people. We're lean and mean, and we pass those savings on. But
Ingmar, our friend Ingmar who owns Marlowe Beauty. You know,
yes,
he always says that there's a commonality in all the products sold, whether it's a discount product or an expensive product, and it's the first ingredient is water, and the second ingredient, do you know what that is?
what's that?
Marketing. It doesn't matter if it's the premier
I love
brand
that.
or the cheapest brand. They all have that similar chemical makeup. Um,
Yeah.
there's something you've been working on that really kind of spans the whole technology transformations and everything. And I definitely wanted you to talk about your family. So we'll talk about life in here in a minute. But I'm going to kind of jump around because it really is intriguing me, the new way that you're selling, with live selling, TikTok shopping, kind of a
Hmm.
QVC style business to consumer, swipe to buy. Can you explain more of this because it is just so radically different than um, most
Radically different.
selling models that it's blowing my mind.
Radically different. I mean, I have to tell you, you know, I've been I've been proud of the model we built, over the past couple of years. I'm like, you know, when you achieve some goals, you're like, okay, I'm proud of what we built. I had a big realization about 6 months ago. I'm like, we built all these brands with a very lean team, 135 products, but the truth was, Matt, our brands didn't have a soul, if that makes sense. So we were building, 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 getting stuff out, um, checking a lot of boxes, but the only thing that's important is how connected we are to our community
Mm.
and the consumers and the real conversations we're having with consumers, the content that we're sharing with consumers, the education, all these things. We were doing none of that. And that was something that over the past year, I began to really look at it and be like, we need to pivot. We need to completely pivot
Yeah, I
because
mean,
it
that's what you're saying. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me because when you talked about the whole creating those products and that the product, it may fill a category gap for them for this year, quarter, whatever, but they may not continue that on. And so it's almost like you're right. The order
100%,
wasn't guaranteed.
100%.
So you're almost honoring the brand that you create, right? And
Yes,
saying, hey, I've put all this work into this brand. Um, it means something to you, and it's like, and it could die on the vine under the original business model, if left alone. This is
100%.
this is your way of, hey, I build brands as well as, it's almost like I build great products, and great brands.
Yes. Yes. And that was a big realization. And so it was one of those realizations where I'm like, we need to do less and do it better and be more methodical and really invest in the brands that we have.
Hmm.
So I put a bit of a pause on new product development while we focus on content creation, on community building, affiliate marketing, all of these things. So, and these are traditional playbooks of most brands. It's just we weren't doing them because of our business model.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so here comes TikTok Shop. It TikTok Shop has, I would say, it's one of the biggest changes in this decade. I mean, it's and believe it or not, it's been around, for a while now, but it's still early days. And it's absolutely changing the game. And the reason why it's now, like we've talked about, content is everything. And what TikTok Shop allows, it allows a truly win-win situation for brands like mine. I can sell basically using content creators. So we can basically give away free samples
Mm-hmm.
to affiliates. And these are content creators who are people, could be, let's say a stay-at-home mom who wants to make extra money. She may shoot videos, request samples from brands like us, shoot videos of our product, and then add our product to her videos. So she does this cool video with her kid washing her hair using our products, and then swipe up to buy. When someone buys that product through her video, she automatically gets a predetermined commission that we set as a brand,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
now,
so it's just basically the affiliate marketing model on steroids in terms of the speed to conversion to say,
yeah,
in a regular video, I could say, hey, Brian, you really should use this hair care product. I'm joking with my hair,
yeah,
but
right,
I could be promoting hair care product for you here, but then the user, what they would have to do is go back to their computer, Google it, or maybe find a BLTnT podcast episode where there's a link to it. But this is
yeah,
like real time, Johnny on the spot. You're watching the video, swipe up, buy it. It's in your cart. It's on its way,
right,
and
frictionless,
the affiliate's been paid.
completely frictionless. Yeah, and that's the beauty of this whole thing. So a brand, and it's very democratic too. Like, you don't have to be a large brand with huge budgets, and that's always been the limiting factor.
Yeah,
Is
right. You
pay
can
per
spend
pay per
$50.
click advertising.
You can
What's that?
send you can send $50 worth of product to an influencer. They use it, and it's essentially free to you almost. I mean, $50, but you're
Yeah,
not managing some PPC campaign or anything like that.
no,
She's putting it on
no,
her. The example you gave of the woman with the TikTok account and video content creation. It's low
I'll give you
cost.
I'll give you an example. It can be literally life changing for a brand and life changing for that same creator. I
Sure.
spoke with a friend of a friend, and this quote always sticks out to me. It's like, if you cannot see where you're going, ask someone who's been there before. I've been doing that over the past year. I've been talking to brands, big brands who are succeeding on the platform. I have a few mentors in the space who are kind of guiding me.
Hmm.
And I spoke with a friend of a friend who owns a brand last week, and they're doing north of 30 million on TikTok Shop as a platform. It's significant.
Is this
He,
the this is the manufacturer,
I can't. No, it's a brand.
this is the brand, not the affiliate themselves?
It's the brand.
Okay.
It's the
With,
brand, and
with a network of
they
how many affiliates do you think they're working with?
I think they're north of probably 10,000 now.
Okay, so
Massive,
significant. Yeah.
massive. Okay, and so they had one creator last year who did over $1 million in sales, and at 20 to 25% commission. That creator, I mean, it had a very significant run.
Wow.
And
Wow.
and that's what's possible. So what's interesting, let's just say one video. Let's say, you're doing things at scale and you're sending out thousands of samples a month or hundreds of samples a month. These creators are then doing videos for those. So what's amazing is those videos live on. They live on
Right.
forever, essentially. So those are it's work that you didn't have to do as a company, and it's truly organic content. Like you said, it's not all perfect. It's not production quality, but that doesn't matter nowadays.
Right.
Imperfection is perfection. And what's cool is that once those videos are out there, let's say one video takes off and goes viral. What's interesting, if that video goes viral, then the brand, that person's getting paid the entire time.
Hmm.
If the video goes viral, the brand then creates Spark ads, TikTok Spark ads, and advertises that video to accelerate even more. And
Mm.
that creator keeps making more and more and more.
Wow.
So it can live on and on and on. And it can just, I mean, it can be life changing for creators and
What's your
obviously, of course, for
prediction
the
on?
brands.
Give me a prediction on kind of the macro effect of this. Like if I'm a brick and mortar store, am I quaking in my boots right now, for any reason, or what's going to be the biggest disruption? Who's going to? Obviously, I'm hearing that the brands, and especially small brands and affiliates, are really going to monetize this, right? So those are some of the winners. Who's some of the losers, if they don't jump on the train?
I think some of the I think the small brands are going to rise very quickly, and I think it's going to allow more brands to be out there and to succeed. I think some of the large brands, the big P&Gs and Unilevers, and consumers now just have such a choice, and they have such uh, amazing content from all over. People, there's just they're not relying consumers are not relying on the traditional methods,
Mhm.
advertise advertising, and it's just now, I think it's just all about content. So they're seeing and they're getting exposed to more new brands constantly. So
Okay.
I think the larger brands are going to take a big hit. um what other negative effects you're asking?
I'm just saying, who are the winners, losers? What are the pluses and minuses of of kind of a disruption in how we might purchase and how we might market, how this all kind of, give me the view from your perspective of where it might be going.
Yeah, so I really think I think affiliates are going to be they're going to continue to do well. Like
Hmm.
I think everyday every people will be focused on content creation. I think B2B businesses, it's not just selling products; it's B2B businesses as well,
Sure.
putting short form content out there to attract leads, email signups, having funnels, using TikTok, using Instagram.
Hmm.
Matt, do you know what many chat is on Instagram?
I don't.
Where it's someone does a video and then they say comments Matt in the comments, and then they'll start you on a sales funnel. So
Oh yeah.
they're
Okay, I didn't know what that was called. I mean, I do it all
and
the
it's
time.
all automated. It's all
Yep.
automated. So
I just thought they
I
were
think
staying up all hours of the day to respond to me when I said, discipline in
yeah.
one of the fitness guys' um, posts.
No, I think things like that are incredible just for B2B. I saw someone the other day who refinished his cabinets. It just came up on my feed,
Hmm.
and he repaints kitchen cabinets. And it's one of those satisfying videos to watch when you see someone just transform a whole kitchen
Yeah.
in minutes. And I mean, this is a painter, right? Who is able to just create this fascinating content that people love watching.
Hmm.
And
I watch it.
now that's a
I know exactly which one you're talking. I don't remember the guy's name, but I
now
know I know what
it's
you're
lead
talking
generation for him. And
about.
so I think talk
Makes me
about
look at my
winners,
cabinets and want to paint them every day that I see them.
right? And this is, a painter who is busy painting. They're not doing pay-per-click advertising. They're not doing affiliate, they're not doing any of those models. They're just showing their beautiful craft. And I
Right.
think that to me is the coolest thing in the world,
Hmm.
to take and show someone the magic of a business visually.
Man, I hope
And
I hope what you could do is take and show us some of the production and some of what goes into the creating of your brands. I mean, I think that would be great just to see, to know that. How good does that feel when you're talking about, a clean supply chain, USA made, going, hey, that's the guy that makes the soap that I wash my little kids with, like, and
totally.
you can do a video showing that of your factory that's 5 miles down the road from you, you know, like you said, you can show
That's awesome, Matt.
you could show
It's
the bottle being blow molded, you know, being brought over
it's
by.
funny that you say that.
This is wild.
And this is, in full transparency, I for many years I didn't want to be out there in public, meaning showing, this whole idea of like build it in public. I was kind of, I would say, intimidated by it, being in front of the camera, or like doing short form content over the
Hmm.
past couple of years. And in just in the past 12 months, I'm like, that is exact what you just asked. I've talked to so many people, and they're like, show me the operation. Like, we would love to learn more. And so we've been doing that. And I think that's going to be a key part of everything moving forward
That's great.
is, we are, family owned, small business. Like, hey, here's the manufacturer. Here's our chemist, who's working on our new
Yeah.
development and
Yeah. That's
all
awesome.
that stuff. I shot a video of me. I'm wearing a hairnet at the factory a couple weeks ago, like when a new production run was coming off the line.
Very cool.
And so I'll be doing more of that in the future.
Great. So can you see that okay?
Yeah.
So I'm on the Los Angeles Brands website here, and just on the main page. And so, this is how old is the company?
Technically 7 years.
Okay, so 7 years. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
we're talking
really
Loria.
4 years ago when we really started going heavy into
So keeping that in
these
mind,
brands.
think about that if you're watching this, right? This is a 7-year-old brand, and look at the way the products show up, right? This shows up like a L'Oreal or Max Factor or Maybelline. See, I don't wear the makeup, but I know a little bit about it. But like, I mean, look at how that shows up, and with the, and I don't know all these chemicals or these, these essential oils or whatever these are, but you've got it advertised right on the front of the bottle. They just look great, right? I am a customer. I'm a non-paying affiliate customer of the Frankie and Paisley brand here. My dog has been washed in all of these items right here, including Fanny foam, which is
Amazing.
really disgusting to talk about, but it does work. My wife can attest to it. I have a strong gag reflex, so I can't go
Good
near
excuse.
that. Yeah, it served me well.
Good excuse. Yeah, it's funny, Matt. You say that. I really appreciate your compliments on the brands, and what's interesting is that we, a very, very small team, so we're doing everything, and that's the
Mhm.
Shopify website that you're staring at right now. Like yours truly created it. So like we truly do everything. Like I concept a lot of the ideas out and then get them to our designer who does a lot of the other stuff. But like things like website design and pitch decks and all of these
Mhm.
things. I mean, a lot of it we're doing. I'm doing a bulk of it as well. So it's like as much as we've grown, we're still lean and mean. So
Yeah,
that part hasn't
good and
changed.
scrappy, huh?
Yeah.
This episode of the BLTnT podcast is sponsored by Auxium, business IT and cybersecurity designed to outsmart chaos. Empowered by Juniper Networks. Automate your network with Juniper Networks and the Mist AI platform, the world's first AI-driven wired and wireless network. I want to switch gears a little bit here. You had mentioned something, and I think you and I both have known this about each other, and anybody who's watched any of our episodes knows that I'm a big proponent of the peer, one, seeking out mentors, and I talk about a few of them that I talk to often.
Hmm.
Also, the peer mentorship or the peer group, and going to people who have been down the road that you want to be down, and you kind of talked about this with me many different times, about the, why a peer group, right? I need to be more challenged. What are my blind spots? So you've always kind of had that, I would call that like that humble humility piece where it's like, hey, I know I don't know everything, but talk to me. What have you been involved in whether it's like a Vistage or a YPO or an EO? Are you're doing that still? Am I correct?
Yes, I am. And I think that's been a huge benefit as an entrepreneur. I've gotten so much out of it. It started, what, 4 years ago? I joined 5 years ago now. It's called the UCLA Anderson, the Business School CEO Forum. And it
Oh,
was a monthly forum, 9 of us each month. We'd meet for about 6 hours, talk about business challenges, opportunities. Many of the situations were personal too. How,
mhm.
balancing personal life as an entrepreneur, all of these things. And that peer group was like extremely important to me. over the years, and I learned a ton. I then left that group about a year ago and joined EO. EO's entrepreneurs organization, and it's chapters in I think 60 or 70 countries around the world. It's a bigger group, and the standards to get in are a little bit higher. There's like revenue; you have to have audited financials and over a certain revenue number. And so I joined that group and absolutely changed the game for me. It's the same type of thing, but a lot more educational programming, and then international opportunities, and it's just been amazing. But I mean, some much larger businesses in that group as well. So I just learned, my challenge that I'm stressing about all week. I'll sit down and talk to someone else who's got that same challenge, but he's 10x bigger of a company. It gives you some perspective. So that's been really cool. What's really neat though is I was at a retreat like 6 months ago, and I talked to a guy who is in both the UCLA one and EO, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think that was possible. So I just rejoined. So now I'm in actually 2 monthly forums, and it's been amazing. I get to see my old forum again. I missed all of them. They're just amazing people. But so much of it is just seeing things from a different perspective. So last month at my forum meeting, we spent the whole meeting focused on one of the businesses in the group was facing a big challenge on strategy. And we spent about 2 hours working on his challenge. And I walked away so fulfilled. It was nothing to do about my business, but thinking like about a creative solution to his challenge and talking through ideas. Like I learned so much from the group, but then he got so much out of it. And it was, I'm sure you can relate with
100%.
Vistage, but
yeah,
it
was
cool. And
I can't even like begin to tell all the stories like that. Right.
Yeah. And personally, I mean, I have 2 small kids, and so much of it is how to balance and show up as a father, while running a business, and you're worried about this, but then how can you be present and not be on your phone all the time? Things like this that I'm a work in progress. Like I'm constantly learning from this group because, I struggle a lot when, just creating the balance and not having anxiety and, all these things. So the peer group has been priceless that way.
Great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about like the anxiety of things of the business, and have you kind of what do you do to stay as balanced as possible? Because your wife works as well, right?
She works as well, and then she has a bit of a commute too. So pretty long hours for her, and so it takes an army and it takes a village. But we're doing it. And what do I do I think the biggest thing that's helps me is workouts. I try to do a Peloton workout or yoga, or I've been doing long walks in the morning, an hour walk before the day gets started, 6 to 7 in the morning, and just clear my head and think about the day, set some intention.
That's not that early though, because I mean, for the rest of the world, you're really talking like
I know.
9 o'clock. So
yeah. No, but and that's what if you don't do something like that, now it's noon everywhere else while you're just getting your day started. So sure. It is important.
That's great.
And then we go to church. We go to church every week too. So that's been a key part of I think just as a family, just having that time each week and being connected to that community as well.
Great. Yeah, we had a fella on, Fred Sievert, who was the former president of New York Life insurance company, and he talked about how his faith was so integral, and for such a large company like that, you like, wow, you were allowed to talk about that, huh?
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So it's good the balance that you're finding and everything you're doing. Tell us a little bit about your wife and your kids.
Yeah, my wife is amazing. She is just an amazing mom, and she holds it all together and takes care of us. So she works in sports entertainment. Um, and so she basically does entertainment for a major national hockey league team here in LA. And then she shows up every day, every minute for the kids and for us. So it's she's great. Our kids are just amazing. I'm a girl dad, and they're, I would say, the most well-rounded girls in the world. I mean, we're, from body surfing and surfing to playing in the mud to building stuff and wearing dresses, and they're just super well-rounded. So I'm proud of them, and yeah, we're just trying to like show up. I had a funny
How old are the girls right now?
3 and 7.
Okay.
And talk about a sign, Matt. I had this happen the other day where I was like, you know what? I really need to change this. My little one, her favorite toy that she carries around all day long now, guess what it is?
I don't know.
A cell phone.
Oh, no. Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, where's she getting this from? Right? Talk about a sign. I was like, okay, the cell phone, when I get home from work, it needs to go in a basket now because, yeah, we're showing the wrong the wrong signals to her.
Do you think the girls know? Do you think they know how much you guys are working, or have you? Do you think
They
you're
do.
with the showing up, like you said? I mean, you're there for almost everything, right? You're there for every
Yeah.
table and everything. You're not missing it, traveling for work right
No,
now.
we don't. We don't. And that's the luxury of, she can be flexible with her schedule, and, running my own business, I can be as well. But they definitely know. I try to, like, I have a pretty cool office here where we have like a rooftop and just a lot of fun stuff at the office. So I try to bring them to the office
Hmm.
as much. They always ask me after school, like, can we go to your office? And so they enjoy that. So they get to see kind of what we're doing, what we're building. And then of course my oldest one has been part of the creation of a lot of these products. So she's always like helping me shoot videos and doing fun things. So
That's awesome.
it is fun. I want to teach them at a young age
That's
about what's
fantastic. Well,
possible.
and look, you and I had the benefit of being taught at a young age. I mean, both of our dads were entrepreneurs, um,
Yeah,
and we got to see the highs and the lows of that.
right.
So, we got our humility consistently checked. But we also had to work hard, right? There was no question about that. We were talking about your dad and how some of what he's been all about, right, really influenced you. That engineering sort of mindset. I
Yeah.
mean, I remember being, growing up with you. We had houses on the lake, and we had to help your dad put together the boat lift for jet
Oh
skis.
yeah.
I grew up on a canal and had 100 neighbors that all had a very standard lift mechanism for a jet ski. It was called a davit, right? And then
Davitt, right.
your dad, because of the business that he was in the machining world, he's got us driving out with, something that's heavier than you can imagine and
Oh yeah.
could have lifted a spaceship. I mean,
Overbuilt.
overbuilt,
Yes.
all these exterior bearings to rotate the whole thing so you could spin it
That's
real
funny.
good.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I didn't. We had to lift that thing in place. I remember.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because he would always think about, for him it's pride of building something
Hmm.
and over engineer it and just make it so it will last forever. And and then the way he would look, he still looks at problems and he's always asking questions. And that's the coolest thing. I now see that. I think I've inherited a ton of that. Like I'm always like looking at things like how do you think that works? Like why this, why that? And now I see my daughter, 7 years old, every day. Dad, what do you think? Like, why do you think this is built like this? Like, look at this sign. Doesn't it look like it's gonna fall? Like, she's always pointing out things constantly, and it's just having that curious nature is amazing. So I think probably been the greatest gift from my dad
Yeah.
is that. And then of course he would take it one step further and like how can we improve on it, like what can we do, like what innovative solution can we do. that was his whole business. And I think I use a lot of that still to this day,
That's great.
just approaching business situations where there's no roadmap and you just have to like figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that lifelong learner, I remember the business card from one of the first ventures that you had. It said, "Be bold," right?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think, like, you've kind of been a trailblazer and been bold, and you know, getting out there and doing it. Tell us the story about the the Blue nightclub in Detroit when you needed some money to go
Oh, man.
to move.
Okay. So that's
Just the
funny.
legal, just the legal parts.
Blast from the past. What's funny though? I went to a seminar over the weekend, and do you know who Lewis Howes is?
No.
He's an online. He has a podcast called The School of Greatness, and he interviews all these guests. And so he had like David Goggins was at the conference, and like Joe Dispenza, Cody Sanchez, all these speakers. So I was there. And Dr. Joe Dispenza was talking all about manifestation.
Okay.
And it's kind of a woo woo. Like some people are like, oh, it's kind of woo woo, but based on all of my peer groups and the most successful people I know manifest constantly. They
Mm-hmm.
visualize where they want to go, and they create, and it's amazing. Anyhow, the Blue nightclub story was my first like real manifestation where I set out. I had a good friend of mine from college who moved to Manhattan Beach, and he went to USC dental school, and I would visit him all the time from Michigan. And I remember one trip I left in February and 2 feet of snow on the ground, and I flew out to Manhattan Beach. He picks me up at the airport. We're on the beach a half hour later playing beach volleyball with his buddies. And it's just an amazing, amazing day. I'm like, why am I not living here? I'm living in Michigan. And it called me on so many levels. So I set a goal with 9 months. 9 months later, I'm like, 9 months from now, I'm moving to California. And at the time I was in Jerry Weinberg, and a lot of the training, this was like Jerry Weinberg.
We should explain, because Jerry Weinberg is germane to the Detroit area,
Yes.
but it's a
So
sales training organization.
yeah,
Jerry was for the longest time, was the largest franchisee of Sandler sales training worldwide, and just, I mean,
and it was,
every
and
business.
we both took it, right? And
Absolutely.
Sandler sales training and taught by Jerry was just amazing. So one of the things he talked about, he's like, if you have a big goal, he's like, get very, very clear on what that goal is. Put yourself on the far side of the goal, like you've already accomplished it. Map out on the wall, like listen to the music. Like for me, I was wanting to move to California. He's like, put stuff on the wall with California palm trees everywhere. Listen to Beach Boys music, and like do all these things. And at the time I was like, you know what, I have to do this. Like I'll do whatever it takes. So I started doing all of these things, and like as I got closer, I'm
Plus,
like, this
we were
is
smoking a lot of weed back then too.
yeah, right. No. But
No,
I'm
but
like, as I got
I did that, and I never inhaled either, so it doesn't matter.
I'm like, as I got closer to the goal, I'm like, it became so real where it wasn't even a question. I'm like, I will move to California. And there were a couple obstacles in my way. One, I was working, in a family business with my dad, who, I revered, and I'm like, I don't want to like leave him high and dry, but I know I can't stay here forever, and I need to go spread my wings and fly. And then I also financial, like to move to California was not easy nor cheap. So I had a savings plan in place, all these things working. About a month and a half before the trip, before I was going to move, change my whole life, and basically quit my job with the family business and leave, I found my savings were depleted. I had to buy a new car and all these other expenses. I'm like, okay, I'm 6 weeks away. This move is happening whether I like it or not. I have to go there. I need a nest egg when I'm there, and I have to figure it out. I got to get creative. So I'm like, what can I do? How can I make $10,000 or $15,000 in like a couple days? I'm like, what can I do? And I'm like, it has to be legal. It
Wait, there
has
was no affiliate. Tell me, there was no affiliate marketing back then.
TikTok shop was not there. There was, yeah, no, none of it. so I'm like, what can I do? And so I got this crazy idea. I was connected to like, I was president of my fraternity in college and like involved in all these different groups. And I'm like, man, I know how to like pull people together. That was like what I could do. I'm like, and I was connected with like, I'm just like, my group has always been very diverse. So I'm friends with this group and like all different types of people. And I'm like, what if I just threw a huge party and rented out a club, threw a huge party, raised money, basically, rented out the club and then took the door money. And I knew some people who were doing similar things. They would host these big events and basically raise money. So I came up with this idea, and in the spirit of visualizing, I sat down on my computer and I wrote it out. And I was like, here's what it's going to look like when you walk through the door. There's going to be people juggling fire, and there's going to be the hottest DJ and all these things. And I literally wrote it out in such detail. And I ended up I pitched it to like 12 different sponsors. 8 of them right away said yes. And so they covered a lot of hard costs. And then next thing you know, I started putting it out. Remember Our Detroit magazine?
Yeah, they're still here.
Yeah, they're amazing people over there. They sent some photographers, and like we had a VIP room and all these things. So it ended up being this really fun time and a big party, and we were charging at the door, which is typical of any club, so it was no big deal. But the difference was that I kept it, and so at the end of the night, oh, and by the way, it was in Detroit, really rough part of Detroit at the time. It wasn't like what it was today. And so I had to have cash drops, right? So at 10 o'clock, I had to have my brother-in-law take an envelope full of money. At midnight, my brother did. And then at 2 a.m., I took the rest. And long story short, I think in 4 hours, we made like $11,000. And it was, the next day we counted it on my brother's table, and it was like this huge pile of cash, and then deposited the money. 2 days later, we're driving to California. So
That's amazing.
And that lasted about a month in California. No,
Yep.
but yeah, didn't last very long. But yeah, that kind of, that's how I got out here, and then basically started from scratch out here, and never looked back. So
That's fantastic. Now the other so I mean, obviously, if we're talking business, life, technology, and transformations here, you check all the boxes, right? When you were out there originally, the transformations were, moved out there. You were doing a lot of work in China, so and then just talk a little bit about that wave, and just maybe instead of really focusing on everything that you did there, just things that you learned from that you're applying today. Where did I always think the transformations, the pivot points, those are the areas where so much learning happens in those in those time spans. Talk a little bit about that. Talk about a couple of things that you learned from there that you're applying today. In the businesses you're involved.
Yeah, and those are the scariest times too, right? Those transformations, and excuse me, the transitions.
Absolutely.
They're the scariest times because change is tough. I mean, it's really tough, and that's one thing I think for me. I had a lot of change, through the years, and some of the changes I was, the China thing for me. I'd never been to China. When I first went, and I went in 2005, I think, for the first time. And I had one trip with my boss at the time. And he's like, showed me, we met a few folks. And then he's like, all right, now you're going to go, here's the, company credit card or the budget. And he's like, I want you to pretty much go every month for a couple years and basically figure it out, rebuild our whole supply chain. And he set the vision and the goal, and then basically I had to execute on it, and it was scary as hell. I didn't, the language was an issue. Traveling is, it's not easy, especially when you don't know the language and you can't read the signs and everything else. But it was the coolest experience I ever had, and I met some people that I'll never forget, and I'm still in touch with today. And like, talk about like the learning mindset. These people, this was like early, I would say early days in China. It wasn't early, but it was like 2005, 2006. And people there, I mean, things were changing. So many brands, companies from the US were outsourcing and setting up new. Everything was new. Every time I would go back from one month to the next, you'd see a new high rise. And you'd see, I grew up in manufacturing, and you'd see some of this world-class German engineering, German equipment, Japanese equipment, all here in China. And it was just, and with people who have a growth mindset, who are just like figuring stuff out in an entrepreneurial way. And like that deeply impacted me, where it's not, it's not tradition. Nothing about it was traditional, but it was all new. And like, the only thing that matters is today, not the past. Whatever we have today matters. That's how we can create tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned a ton from that experience, and I think I still carry that with me today. I did for about 10 years. I was like sourcing and doing business in China, helping US companies do business in China. And I got to a point in 2008 where I actually pivoted away from that. The products and the things we were doing, the margins decreased dramatically. Freight costs went up, a lot of increased competition. And then, of course, the economy changed dramatically, and I turned inward. Inward meaning I stopped going to China, and I focused on building a US based business. So I actually I had many transitions during that time. I ended up doing some consulting for a while, and then I ended up, getting an MBA in retail. So, and that was something that like China influenced. A lot of the programs I was working on was setting up supply chains for products, building products, and then eventually building components, and then eventually building retail goods. And that's kind of how that transition happened. And I would always look at these products, and I'm like, someday they're going to be my products on shelves. And so what I realized is, to get there, I needed to really understand not just how to make the product, but how to sell the product.
Mm-hmm.
And how to basically build a retail program at a national US based retailer. So I went and did that for about 4 years. And again, that was scary as hell. I had zero experience, much less in the beauty industry. But I ended up figuring it out, and I would say I'm not mastering my craft, but getting pretty good at it,
Mm-hmm.
and building some amazing relationships that are still with me today as well. And I still work with some of these same people in the industry. But again, if I would have stopped at the fact that I didn't have experience, then I would have never started. So I had to just
the other
power through it.
That you're not saying, is the reinvention piece, and how other people look at you as an entrepreneur, right? They're always looking at you like you're crazy. And so obviously you have to have some fortitude to see through that, to go, okay, I know I'm not being wild and irresponsible. I know, I believe in myself. The manifesting helps. What besides the manifesting, how did you keep your own self intact while everybody's looking at you like you're nuts?
Yeah. It's funny. That's been a real challenge of mine, Matt. As far as not wanting to share too much, because I was afraid people would think I was crazy. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because like, wait, you're doing this, now you're doing this. And like, still to this day, I have some friends that are like, wait, I don't really know what you do. Like, tell me what you do. And part of that is my fault. I haven't necessarily shared my journey the whole way.
Yeah.
And I've honestly gotten better at it in the past year or two, where I've found the common thread. And my thread is different than your thread, is different than anyone else. And like, I'm proud of the journey now, and where I used to be afraid of it, shy about it. And because I didn't want people to think, it was too disconnected.
Some
and
whim,
people would think I was
just following whims and not really being purposeful or intentional in some way.
Right.
So let's say this. So, I don't know what different systems you operate with, but like you've heard of traction, I'm sure,
Yes.
EOS model. I identify as a visionary. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at strategy. I'm good at communication and building relationships. Beyond that, I'm not really great at a whole lot of things. So,
Hmm.
what do you identify as? And you don't have to use the EOS verbiage for it, but maybe if you use, something that we can kind of sink our teeth into. So when somebody's trying to understand who is Brian Hollowaty, you know, and what value is he bringing into an organization? How do you identify Brian?
I would actually identify as a visionary as well, and I'm I'm always looking, and this is one of the challenges that I have. I don't always communicate it with my team, but I'm always looking 3 to 4 steps ahead and seeing macro, like where are things heading, and then building based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you and I were talking about this whole strategy, like with content, and like where I'll give you an example right now. What I'm seeing, what's keeping me up at night right now, Matt, is brands and companies of the future. It's not going to matter. What mattered yesterday will not matter in the future. The only thing that's going to keep people and companies and brands relevant in the future is content,
Mm-hmm.
is being personal, being out there. I'm preaching to the choir. You have a podcast, but
Yeah.
but we, you everyone will be looking for personal brands from your doctor. If your doctor has a personal brand, you're looking for a new doctor. One is really active and he's got videos online and you can feel like you get to know him and connect with him, versus someone who just has a Yelp listing, and it's not, you don't have that personal connection.
Right.
And that, I mean, that's just a dumb example, but I really believe to stay relevant in the future, brands and companies, content is everything. It's no longer about how much capital you have. It's just how you can connect on a deep level with your community.
That's so funny you just said that. I was just I had a younger. He's not that young, but he's 10 years younger than us. Dentist who I met recently, and he came and just said, "Hey, can we do coffee?" And he just wants to talk about business with me, and
Yeah.
we talk about scaling his organization and what he does and all that sort of stuff. And it was funny. I was just mentioning to him that I said, I will not accept traditional medicine, right? You will not see me just go to a regular doctor. I go to a concierge doctor. Why? I have a cell
Hmm.
phone, right? I have a dentist.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some, and it's not always that I'm paying for that concierge service, but I'm getting referrals to friends, right? I'm saying, well,
Hmm.
the orthopedic surgeon who takes care of my mom is a guy from our golf course, right? And it's like my mom was, had fallen, hurt herself. Oh, it's going to take me 3 weeks to get in for this appointment. I said, no, it's not. Pick up the phone. I call my buddy. He says, uh, can she be there at 8 o'clock in the morning? Yep. Boom. She's in MRI before noon. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Frictionless, like you said. Right.
Yeah.
Now, why do I expect that? I expect that because I know that every owner of every company that we do business with has my cell phone number. Right. Now, they don't
Hmm.
usually typically choose to call me because they know that I'm not an enormous technical resource to them, but they know that if there is a major block, that they know that they could come to me. Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Right. Now, again, thank God I'm super blessed that I am not getting those calls um, from those people. I'm getting, most of the time they're inviting me to do something fun, but they have the number, right? And so I expect it, I demand it of whoever I'm working with, and it's like
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a number. And I think that I think maybe that was a rare thought in the past, but I think it's growing, and people are like, you know what, I'm sick of crappy brands with crappy chemicals. So I'm going to go buy those,
Hmm.
I'm going to go buy those Frankie and Paisley products from Brian, instead of something that I don't know what it is. I'm going to go to the concierge doctor, spend a couple bucks, do the math on it, by the way, and say the time that I save is worth every dollar, right?
Sure.
The
Sure.
agony that I don't experience is worth every dollar, right? These are no brainers. And so I
Yeah.
think that the market is just going to keep pushing for that. So I do really hope that you're right about the kind of the brands of the future is going to be those of excellence, right? Where it's uh, driven
Yeah.
by transparency, driven by content, the personal relationship, and I just love it. I hope that hope that
It,
what happened.
my favorite thing to do, Matt, and you and I have this in common, is go have lunch with another entrepreneur
I try to do
who's
it. I
building
try
a
to do
business.
it every day.
What's that?
I said I try to do it every day. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
make
And
sure
like when I
2 meetings like that a week, to be honest.
sit down, like my wife can attest, like everyone I meet is the most amazing person in some way. Like
Yep.
because I tell her, I'm like, you have no idea like how this person built this business. Like, went through thick and thin and like almost failed 5 times. And like, I have this amazing story about everyone that I sit down with.
Same.
And I'm like, and I was thinking about it. Like one of my good friends, Tarek, he
Yeah.
owns an optometrist. He owns a couple optometry offices. And he was wrestling the other day. He's like, with Yelp reviews, they rely so much on Yelp, and like once in a while they'll have someone who just for whatever reason just doesn't have a good experience and they write a bad review.
Right.
Totally hurts him, and hurts his whole business. And I was talking with him. I'm like, I know the magic of how he runs his practice. I know his staff, how good they are. I know like everyone has amazing experiences. A Yelp review does not tell the whole story.
Correct.
So that's where I think in the future, short form content is everything. It's like, imagine going in and shooting a couple hours of videos with him where, he's telling his story, like why he does what he does, how he spots certain things, and then his staff and then a few patients chopping it up into short form content
Hmm.
and then giving it back for him as like a done for you marketing solution. So like that's where I think the future is heading. And that's kind of, yeah,
Love it.
that's where we're heading as well, Matt.
Love
Yeah.
any last bit of advice that you would give to the younger viewer or to the even younger version of yourself? So let's do that. Let's pick that one. Let's say, what would be your parting advice to the 23-year-old Brian Hollowaty?
Man, there there's so much change happening right now. Back to the technology. I mean, with AI, tech tool, AI, for instance. I don't know how much you use it, but I mean,
Constantly.
it's constantly, yeah, same.
I don't
And
even know if I'm real anymore.
yeah, no, but are you serious or no?
I'm the bot formerly known as Matt. Yeah, no, I use it every single day,
Yeah.
and
So
especially for aggregation of my own ideas. Right, so things that I
that's
find it
it.
very
That's it.
difficult for me to articulate because my brain is thinking 4 and 5 steps ahead, like yours. It's how do I get that into a format, talk to the GPT, tell it all this stuff, and then be able to bring it to 3 other people who are not schizophrenic like I am.
Yeah. Yeah. So I, I agree 100%, and I'm finding better ways to use it every day. But the amount of technology that we have now, and the amount of change that's happening, I would encourage a younger person, and if I could go back in time, to learn and spend as much time learning as possible. Like get good at learning. I mean, design. Everyone should know how to do a bit of design and ways to articulate their ideas using
Mm-hmm.
design. Um, Everyone needs to know sales moving forward in some way or another. And again, it's articulating your ideas in a really powerful way. Um, Technology. I mean, AI, whether we like it or not, it's coming in a big, big way, and like we need to learn it, and we need to learn how to harness it to be better versions of ourselves, not to rely on it, but to be better versions of ourselves. Um, and then building a personal brand. I think that's extremely important moving forward, and that's holistically. That's not just on one channel. It's really holistically. And then mentorship is absolutely critical, and I would say networking. And when I say networking, it's kind of a slimy word, but it's just relationship building on a continual basis. And it's not just to get a job, but it's really to build your knowledge base.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah,
I always think of, you know, everybody you meet them with the intention. This is my MO. Meet them with the intention of introducing them to someone valuable to them, right? And
I love that.
that'll make my big mouth stop talking and make me listen enough to understand the person, find the special things inside of them, and then put them in touch with somebody who I think
Yeah,
will.
and that's one of the things I respect so much about you, Matt. You've done that your whole since I've known you.
Well, thanks.
It's amazing.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah,
one other thing I would tell the younger versions of ourselves is it's going to be okay. Right? So for every time you were freaking out along the way,
yeah,
it's going to be okay.
true, true. Do you? How do you feel? And I don't know if you can relate to this, but the less uh, I hate to like not ever watch news and not know what current events are happening, but the more news I watch, the more anxiety I have.
I would totally agree, but I'm a little bit, I'll use the term bipolar on it, whereby what I sometimes think is, am I not watching enough? Right? What am I not learning? Like I was always the guy that I resisted IPA beers, okay, because I was so sick of everybody talking about them. Then I
Yeah,
had
no,
them.
I hear you.
These things are awesome. What the hell was I thinking?
Yeah,
Waiting so long. So I do worry about the FOMO, right, piece of what am I not going to know if I'm not watching the news, but also, I mean, I know where you're going with it, right? It's like if you want to get sucked down into the vortex of total bullshit, just watch the news every day. But
yeah,
if you didn't watch the news, would you know about AI, right? And you probably would from your peer groups, right?
yeah.
And that would be where you'd pick it up. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think that there is no value in current news. I mean, I think it's all so completely skewed and
Fear mongering too. Yeah.
fear mongering, skewed, and I think that if we even just kind of go quasi political, and you say it's there's not one thing that is for the normal person, right? There's nothing that sounds like the conversations that I'm having, on chairlifts or on a telephone call or out to lunch with people.
Hmm.
Nothing on the news sounds like that. It all sounds completely polarized one way or another, from crazy wacky on both sides. It's never sounding like real people, and that's, I think, the biggest challenge of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would agree with that. But it
Yes,
will all be okay. That's the
we'll all be okay.
best advice right there.
Good. Well, thanks for doing this. I mean, you got a great story. I know next time we talk, we should probably chat a little bit about some of the other ventures that you're involved in, and maybe we'll go down the AI track a little bit more and talk about how we're using it on a daily basis, both of us.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
All right. Well,
Awesome,
good.
Matt.
Well, thanks for doing this, Brian. Always great to
Good
see
seeing
you.
you. Next
Yep.
time I'm gonna be in person.
Okay. That's my wish.
Love it.